Hello everybody and welcome back to another Pokémon Emerald video. Today I will be using a somewhat iconic Pokémon from the first generation. Even though this one has never been owned by Ash, at least to my knowledge, it's always shown being ridden by him in the intro, at least for the episodes for the first generation. Anyway, getting back on the game, the rules today are going to be that I can only use my starter in combat, I can't use items from my bag in battle, I can't increase my evasion in any way, and I can't use cheats or glitches. Rapidash is a pretty decent Pokémon, the stats are not too bad, he has a lot of speed and a decent attack. There are a couple of unfortunate things too though. First off, it's the move pool. It's not very varied, even though there are a couple of interesting options there that I will surely explore later on. And secondly, it's the typing. It is only fire type, which is generally fine, but in Emerald it's not a great typing to be. There are a lot of gyms and other fights where that type does not do very well. The start of the game was very easy. My good stats and okay moves allow me to defeat most Pokémons in a couple of attacks. Surprisingly, it did get kinda close against May in the first encounter, but ultimately I came out on top. Our first major roadblock will be Roxanne. The first gym leader uses rock types that are super effective on me. I attempted her a couple of times at level 19 just after getting Stomp, but it did not work. So I grinded quite a bit in the Wismore tunnel until I got a couple of extra levels, and thanks to that I felt a bit more confident taking on the gym again. The first attempt at level 21 did not go very well, but it was much closer than before, so I thought maybe with a bit better RNG I could do it. And in the second and final attempt, that is sort of what happened. I got a burn against the second Geodude that allowed me to take him down slowly and making Roxanne waste her 2 potions on it. And since she does not have them anymore for Nosepass, the fight against her ace Pokémon is going to be a bit easier, especially because for once his Rock Tomb misses a lot, giving me plenty of turns to take down the Easter Island statue. Not a great start, as I am already 40 minutes in and 4 resets, but it could have been much worse. Skipping over all of the side quests, I can take on the optional fight against May. This one is generally a bit scary because Torkoal is a wall, but thanks to my overleveling and good moves, I can defeat the Fire Turtle in a couple of attacks, and Mudkip soon follows too. Once we have defeated May, I was not sure whether or not to take on Brawly. My fire moves are not going to be very effective against Makuhita because of his thick fat ability, and yeah, Stomp is a good move that does a lot of damage and can flinch, but since it is physical, if he starts setting up a bunch of bull caps, it could get ugly. Fortunately, things worked out in my favor. I was able to barely get him above the potion threshold, and so I can finish him off before things spiral out of control. With the second badge in my hand, I made my way to Slateport, where we have to soon defeat a couple of Team Aqua Grunts. These guys are much easier than the last few fights. All of their Pokémons are very frail, and so they can be defeated with a single stomp. Sure, I will take a bit of damage because of rough skin, but it's nothing to worry about. Once we have defeated them too, we have to sit and listen to Archie for a while, unfortunately, but once he is done yapping, we can move on, and just as we are making our way to Mobile, we have to challenge May to another duel. This one was also a bit worrisome, because her starter has now evolved and has access to Mudshot. That move is a stab and super effective, so it might hurt, but thanks to Stomp flinches, we will never know. After what is probably the most dangerous fight against a rival, we can get to Mobile, and here, after a whole lot of training and grinding, I can buy the Flamethrower TM from the casino. Rapidash surprisingly does not learn it naturally, and so I think it's a fair buy. With it, I can pretty much sweep the gym here, because Watson's Pokémons are not that tanky. Especially because I am super effective on Magneton. Once we have the third badge too, we can explore pretty much the rest of the main region. Once we have the third badge too, we can explore a bit more of the region, and eventually we stumble upon the two teams having a bit of a verbal fight in Meterfall Caves. And not long after that, we have to climb the volcano to stop Maxi from triggering it. His team is not too problematic other than the Camerapt. He resists my fire moves, and my physical ones are not going to be that effective thanks to Intimidate. Fortunately, this time he decided to not use his ground moves, otherwise this could have been quite a different fight. After we stopped the first major disaster in the story, we can get to the next gym, and Flannery also uses fire types. This is going to be quite good for us, since her most powerful moves are fire ones that we can resist. Again, Camerapt might be problematic, but thanks to another Stomp flinch, that problem is solved. Torkoal takes a few hits to go down because of his very high physical defense, but eventually I can clear her team and get this badge too. With all 4 of the available badges so far, we have to go back and finally face our dead Norman. His team is a bit more threatening, because his Pokémons are not that squishy, so Flamethrower might not one-shot, and they are able to deal good damage with their stab normal moves. Once again, I sort of get lucky with the trainer potion usage. Norman uses all of his hyper potions on Linoon, which is a much smaller threat than Slacking. Once that guy comes out, I spam Flamethrower and I even get the burn. That is great because he almost puts me to sleep. With another attack and burn damage, I am able to win the status effects war, and with that, the 5th badge is ours too. By defeating this gym, we are given Surf, which we obviously cannot teach to Rapidash, but I can use out of combat to get to the other side of the region. Here we eventually reach the Weather Institute, where the usual Team Aqua Admiral Shelley is located. Of course, we defeat her in a couple of attacks, and not long after that we have to do another fight against our rival. This time May is a bit stronger and is able to hit me a couple of times, but considering that I am like 20 levels over her Pokémons, even Mudshot does not do that much damage at this point. After defeating her again, we can do the bit with Steven to find out about the Kecleons, and thanks to that we can get into the next gym. Winona is a bit scary, mostly because her Pelipper has a water gun, which is not that bad all things considered, but the main danger is Altaria and his Earthquake. Once again, Stomp is the GOAT and completely destroys the dragon, preventing her from attacking even a single time. The rest of the team gets burned up by Flamethrower, and just like that we have the 6th badge too, and we can now use Fly out of combat. It will be useful later. Then we have the last fight against May in front of them all. This one is optional, but I always include it in the video. Today I'm not sure if I will use Substitute or not. I went back and forth a couple of times thinking about my final moveset for this run. I think I will try something a bit weird, but at least it's going to be somewhat different. Anyway, May does not pose much of a threat. Sure, she hits me a couple of times, but my HP gets barely under 80%. Next, we have to go to the Pokémon Cemetery and get the Magma Emblem, and with this key item, we can enter the cave where Groudon is sleeping. Unfortunately, we arrive too late, and he gets awoken by the blue orb. Since it's the wrong color, the legendary flees away, and Maxi attacks us. This time around, the fight against him was quite a bit more challenging. Stomp is not able to two-shot the Camerupt anymore, and so it is able to fire off a very powerful Earthquake that almost one-shots me. At least I can prevent him from attacking me again, but unfortunately one Flamethrower is not enough to defeat Crobat. It brings me down to just 6 HP, but at least I can seal the deal before he can do anything else. Next we have to do sort of the same in the Team Aqua base, but this time around we are only able to find one of their admirals. His team is quite a bit weaker, and so with a couple of Flamethrowers I am able to sweep through it. And now for the weird strategy. Since there will be quite a few water and ground Pokémons, I think having a grass move is going to be very useful. Fortunately for me, Rapidash can learn Solar Beam, but on its own that move is not very good. So I also thought Sunny Day. Sunny Day has a couple of benefits for us. First off, it lowers the water damage, second, it boosts my fire moves, and third, it allows me to fire off Solar Beam in just one turn. I tried off this strategy against Tate and Liza, and even though it's a hard fight, and I even got crit once, it turned out to be quite effective against them, allowing me to defeat them in the first attempt. Once we have acquired the penultimate badge, we can make our way to the next fight, and this one is another double one with the help of Steven this time. Since there are two Camerupts in this match, it might seem like a hard one, but for whatever reason, they really do not like to use their powerful moves like Rock Slide or maybe even Earthquake if they have it. It is a bit slow because if I want to use this sun, I have to spend a few turns setting up Sunny Day, because given all of their Pokémons, one cast of it's not going to last long enough. Otherwise I can rely on my base damage like I did, and that is also slow because I cannot one-shot them very often, but with the help of Metang, eventually we can make our way through all of their Pokémons. Not very exciting, but at least it was a safe fight. So much so that neither of us got hit even once. The reward for a job well done, it's the Dive HM, and we have to use it as soon as possible to reach the seafloor cave. Here we find Kyogre, but also Archie about to wake it up. To prevent him from doing so, we end up fighting him. His team is much easier than Maxi's, and in the middle I also learned Fire Blast. I'm not a big fan of these moves with low accuracy, but I think I will need the extra power later into the game, so I ended up getting that move. Anyway, even though we defeated the Team Aqua leader, the legendary got woken up anyway, and with both of them active, the weather is a bit of a mess. To stop that, we have to go ask Rayquaza for help, and of course the nice lizard is very glad to prevent the end of the world. Once we have solved that problem too, we can finally take on the last of the gym leaders. Juan uses water types, but thanks to my new moveset, I should be ready to handle him. I used Sunny Day on the first turn, and that gives me 4 turns where Solar Beam is a one-hit KO on pretty much anything he can throw out. I think the trainer's AI makes it so they send out next a Pokémon with a super effective move on you, and that somehow made it so Kingdra came out last. That is kinda bad because I need another turn to set up the sun, and then a Solar Beam is not enough to one-shot. This could get very bad because it had a lot of turns to set up double teams. I end up missing a few times, and thanks to his rest strategies, this fight seemed to be a bit of a mess. Fortunately, I can land one last Solar Beam that turns out to be a crit, allowing me to finally defeat his ace Pokémon. Or at least I think that's his ace Pokémon. Now that we have defeated all of the gym battles, we can get to the Victory Road, where we are immediately challenged by Wally. Here I missed a Fire Blast, got paralyzed, then confused, then Leech Seeded, and then I lost. Yeah, that's why I'm not a big fan of bad accuracy moves. The second attempt goes a bit better, but Delcatty is lucky enough to get Leech Seed with his assist, which is extremely annoying. I guess I could be happy it did not get Supersonic or another paralysis from Thunderbolt or even Toxic. Wally sure has a lot of annoying moves, huh? All the damage from Leech Seed brings my HP kinda low, but fortunately it also prevents him from healing Gardevoir, allowing me to finish the fight somewhat quickly. Well, time for the league, I guess. Our first match is going to be against Sidney and his dark types. I defeated my Tiena in the first turn, since I do not want any sand attacks or anything like that. Then I forgot that Absol has a Rock Slide, which hurts a lot while I set up, and then Solar Beam is barely not a one-shot. All of that brings my HP somewhat low, and so I was a bit worried. Especially because I also forgot that his Shiftry has the ability Chlorophyll. That allows him to outspeed me, but fortunately it only uses Torment. It is an annoying move, but ultimately it does not end up mattering too much. With the first Elite Four defeated, we can make our way to the second one. Phoebe is also kinda scary because her starting Pokémon has Curse. Fortunately, it also uses Protect on the first turn, so I have time to set up the Sun. My first Fire Blast gets protected, but the second one is a one-shot, saving me at least from that Torment. I then proceeded to spam the Fire move quite a bit, but because of the pressure abilities from the Dusclops, my PPs quickly ran out. I tried switching to Solar Beam for the rest of her team, but once again it is not quite enough to one-shot the remaining Pokémons. Thankfully, it's not like she has a lot of damage left at this point, so after a few turns of back and forth because of potions, I can finally finish off the Banette and be done with the second Elite Four too. Next is Glacia, and she could be very easy or very hard. Because of a stomp flinch, her first Celio did not use hail, and that sort of threw me off because I was waiting to use Sunny Day and override the weather. I got my opportunity a couple of turns later when she was healing, so I did not even have to take any damage. From here, she sent out Wall Rain, which is great for me since I can defeat it with Solar Beam, while the sun is still up. At this point, unless I miss a bunch of times or I get frozen or other weird stuff, the fight should be in the bag. I have a super effective move on all of her Pokémons, and so I can finish them off quite fast. And then we have Drake. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, this was a hard fight. I tried it a couple of times at level 70, but it did not work, and so I used the rare candies. Even then, the fight was not a breeze, and I lost once. The strategy here is to set up at the start and hope that Shelgon does not use Rock Tomb, and then spam Fire Blast, hoping to quickly get through his team. Thanks to the extra power of this move and Charcoal, one attack is enough to defeat Flygon, but not Salamence unfortunately. His berry sort of saves me since it brings him out of potion range, and that allows me to defeat Salamence soon too. The last two Pokémons are also a bit of a challenge, because Kingdra again is not a one-shot with Solar Beam, and surely it is not with Fire Blast either, as it resists fire 4 times. Fortunately, Drake does not use many potions on it, so I can defeat him in a couple of turns, and I sort of can do the same against Altaria, even though things get a bit scary as I end up missing an attack. Fortunately, it's only one, and so I can seal the deal the next turn. At long last, we can finally face the champion, and he is a bit of a hard fight too. Of course, we have the type disadvantage, but I end up losing 2 toxic ones. Still, the fight was not as bad as I thought, and with a bit better RNG, I'm sure I can do it. And that's exactly what happens the next turn. I can prevent the Wailord from water spouting me with a flinch, and then I can change the weather to sun while he heals. From here, things are quite interesting. I Fire Blast Ludicolo since it is neutral, and then a lucky flinch from Stomp prevents Tentacruel from toxicking me again. That's huge, especially because Wishcash wastes his turn going for an Amnesia. While that move increases his special defense, is not enough to save him from the one-shot. And then the real threat came out. Gyarados has Earthquake, which will surely hurt a lot, but since he does not defeat me in one hit, he sets up, and that's exactly what I needed to defeat him the next turn. I expected to one-shot Milotic, but of course things cannot be that easy. And then he also survives a Fire Blast. Things are not going my way, but by setting up the sun again, I should have just enough damage to finish it off with one last Solar Beam. And just like that, Rapidash became the champion of the Hoenn region. It was not a super easy journey, but it was quite a bit simpler than I originally thought. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell, and all of that YouTube stuff. If you have any comments, video ideas, feedback, leave it down in the comments. I'll answer all of them, and I'll see you next week. Bye!